So it's June 24th, 2024. This is an update for my update about my diagnosis. I'm going to be reading what I wrote down because I have a lot of little notes and such. I was trying to think of a way to talk about this without being super specific or exposing my professionals' identities. All I can really say as far as the credibility of my diagnosis of OSDD is that my professional suggested I learn from Kathy Steele because she knows her and is second to her in my state. Kathy Steele no longer takes new patients. She teaches and participates in interviews and such. I was directly sent her way by Dr. Colin Ross, whom I contacted via email. His email is posted on his website. He stated he couldn't assess me from Texas, but he knew someone who would do a diagnostic consultation in my state. I reached out to her via Psychology Today, and we got an appointment set up. 90-minute diagnostic consultation. She wasn't quite ready because we got there a little early, but I told her my application had 2 different handwritings, and I wasn't ready either because I wanted to rewrite it. She said no, that I could just send it to her because she wanted to print it out anyways. I was not prepared because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know her, and while she seemed nice, she was a professional and worth her buck, out of network and all. She encouraged me to relax. My husband pushed me in my wheelchair because of the walk to her office, so I sat in my chair in front of her. She asked me questions as they came to her, writing down pages of information, family, childhood history. She teared up and even sort of tossed those pages on the end table next to her, stating my family history was awful. Her questions were natural and a bit off guard. She validated me when I was apologetic for the things done to me, and even reminded me multiple times that I'm not a hypochondriac and that I am feisty and intelligent. I had even brought my journal and planner, discussed everything I've researched and learned, and where and from whom, told her of my aha moment and even a memory of how I met one of my parts, a story of which my family remembers. I even told her about the interview that I participated in on YouTube on my journey for answers. When showing her pictures of one of my parts with our cutting our own hair the same way several years apart, she held my phone in her hand and reached out to me, stating that I don't have to convince her of anything, that she will look at the pictures, but she's been doing this for over 20 years and can see that I am fragmented by just watching me talk throughout the appointment. She diagnosed me with OSDD, highly suggestive of DID, stating several times that she ethically could not diagnose me with DID in one visit, that OSDD was a start. She originally informed me via email that she was not taking any new patients, though at the end of my consultation, she said that she would like to treat me as her patient, stating I could go to someone in network and less experienced for cheaper for my diagnosis, but that I probably wouldn't get someone who knew what the heck they were doing. She is one of very few in my state that specialize in trauma and dissociation, treat DID OSDD patients, and is part of the ISSTD. She even spoke briefly about just running into Dr. Colin Ross in Texas at an ISSTD meeting a week prior to my appointment. 50 minutes for her time is roughly $200. I went through several years of being passed around the medical field, CT scans and MRIs, fluctuating severe hyperthyroidism, soon to be tested for Ehlers-Danlos and lupus by my primary physician's suspicions, based off of his knowing me as his patient for several years now. Since my son was little, I have been assessed for POTS, and diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I went to a neurologist for tests, which were painful and even had wires hooked up to my head, told I experienced paresthesia and neuropathy. And not to forget my PNES, psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, amongst a slew of other symptoms. I do what I can to learn and cope, but I am extremely proud of myself for finding answers and not giving up on myself, even while my family called me crazy or schizophrenic, or the medical field passing me off saying nothing was wrong. I count myself lucky because I have someone who is extremely experienced and educated. I felt with recent events in my life that I would add a more thorough update to my diagnosis. I'm adding this update if anyone's interested, because I feel like in some way maybe it could help someone, because I know a lot of other systems that you see online, they've gone through a lot of different paths, directions. They got their diagnosis in vastly different ways. Their systems are completely different. Their therapy happens differently. My story is not necessarily unique. I have read a lot of case studies before I even came to the assumption that I might have DID. And after possibly, just assuming that I possibly had it, learning from case studies that said that within their 20s, they would start questioning things and learning things. And I don't know if this is just a hypocrisy within the DID community, but it's like you have a suspicion that you might have this disorder and you're told to go seek a professional. Well, I sought a professional. I sought out the professional. I sent Dr. Colin an email, and his email is not unique. It's not something that, yes, someone sent it to me once, but you can go to his website. You can look up, you can go to the Colin Ross Institute website, and his email and their phone number is posted there. Not only did I call, leaving a voicemail to say that I left an email, but I left the email. He responded to me, I think within a week. I think it was like a week or a little over a week. And I was surprised because he's very busy. I didn't think that he would respond. But I sent him a thorough email talking about my journey. I am a mother. I deal with a slew of other things. I have no reason to want this at all. That was one of the things that got me really trying to dig into the books and try to figure out what was wrong, because the doctors were not helping me, is because I was dealing with all these symptoms, and I knew for a fact that I was losing time, going through all these arguments and issues, and sometimes I would say something and sometimes I wouldn't, or I would like something and then I wouldn't. And it's just, I would cry because I wanted to be normal. I wanted to be a normal, in her 20s mother. I wanted to have friends and go to a bar. I want to drink alcohol. I can't drink alcohol. One of my seizures, my biggest seizure, I had a little shot glass of rum and some cherry Coke that I fixed myself 4 hours before my seizure. And it wasn't even really in my system. They tested my blood. It was not in my system by the time that I had been picked up by the ambulance. But because the EMT mistreated me, he shook me, he yelled at me, he told me that I was faking, that I was freaking people out, and I could not control my body. I was in and out of consciousness, and it was scary. But they put alcohol abuse, even though there wasn't any alcohol in my system, and I had only had a shot that I fixed myself. But because they didn't believe that non-epileptic seizures were a thing, they assumed I was faking and mistreat me. So I decided to, I even told her all of this. I was completely raw and vulnerable and genuine, expressing everything I possibly could to be thorough. I thought she was going to test me with everyone else's little stories and trying to learn about everything I possibly could to go to a professional, try to seek a professional. I saw them talking about taking these tests, or they would get diagnosed OSDD with PTSD first, which is what I just did. And then they would go through treatment for like however long they've gone through, years or so on. And then their diagnosis would change from PTSD to CPTSD and DID from OSDD. So I don't understand which is it. Is it if you suspect it, go to the professional? Or is it if you suspect it, don't go to the professional? And if you go to the professional and it's like top line, like top of the line professional, am I supposed to believe them if I finally got to the appointment? Because I know I didn't lie to her. And I'm sorry, but she even told me that everything I was saying, it looked like I was being very authentic, and I was. I looked like I was about to cry. She reassured me of my diagnosis as I left the room. She spoke to my husband at the end of my appointment to go over things and how she would really like to treat me because she thinks I'm feisty and intelligent, and she thinks that my prognosis looks well. She didn't think that I was a harm to myself or others. Even though I admitted to her that I do some self-harm as far as like leaving bruises on myself, but that I've done really good about like controlling those episodes. She said that my prognosis would be well once, like much better, once I get off the property away from my parents, which is a stepping stone. Every life, every person's life, every family's life is unique, and being a millennial in this day and age, especially with the housing prices and property values and the fact that they have laws about medical coverage for my age because they think that I'm of childbearing age and working age, even though all of my doctor paperwork for the past 8 years shows that I'm disabled. I've been using a cane now by my primary physician's suggestion and recommendation for almost 5 years. And just, I think about a year ago now, we finally got, we saved up enough to get me a big wheel wheelchair so that I can go to the parks and stuff and that we didn't have to leave so early. One of my favorite mobility aid was the walker, but being in the RV, the walker is a bit bulkier, and the wheelchair stays in my husband's truck. I am bearing myself raw because I feel like my story will help. That is the whole reason that I participated in the interview that I was invited to. So I hope this helps someone. I don't know what else to say. This is my diagnosis. I don't want this. You want it? If you want it, you can take it. If you would like it, please take all my trauma memories too. Please take all of this. And by you, I'm talking about YouTube. Anyone watching this. If you don't believe that my diagnosis is true, if you believe that I tried to trick someone, if you believe that I wanted this in any way, then please take my diagnosis from me. Take all my trauma memories, my flashback, my regression, my switching, all of the things, the night terrors, the waking up, the seizures during shenanigans with my husband, looking at my child and not recognizing him sometimes. Take all of my trauma and my diagnosis because I would love to be normal. I'm 28 years old. I have never really experienced a bar. Thank you for watching. Anyone that's stopped here. This is my story. This is what I've gone through to get here. I share poetry on my channel if you're interested. It's not much, but like journal entries and stuff, some productivity tools that we use. So if you're interested in following me, even though it may be spotty, because I don't know if the content creation is going to continue. It's not like I've got this mission to spread awareness or educate or whatever. I don't want to educate. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a professional. I am a patient. Clearly, bluntly, plain and simple, I am a patient. That's it.